to the Fruity Knitting Podcast. This is episode 27. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Andrew. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Our interview guest is Polish knitwear designer Justyna Lorkowska. We are also being joined today by Justyna's husband, Martin, who is a yarn dyer behind the label Martin's Lab. Our guest on Knitters of the World is Katie Green, who's coming to us today from Devon in the UK. In addition to being a great, talented knitter, Katie is also an illustrator, and you may have seen some of her work in the Pom Pom magazine.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick walk in the German woods where we'll be visiting a convent ruin which dates back to the 13th century, and we have a special guest appearance, and that's our daughter Madeleine. She's going to talk to you about one of her knitted projects.
Yep. If you want any more information about anyone who appears on the show or anything that we mention on the show, you can find our program notes at fruityknitting.com. That's the first place to look.
So we'll start off with under construction, and Andrew, you have to leave.
Yep.
And Madeleine's going to sit where you are.
I'll be back.
Yes. So Madeleine's joined us now, and show us what you've been working on.
Hello. I have chosen a pattern from the latest Row and Knit magazine, number 61, which is this one here. My design is called Atlantic, and it's by Sarah Hatton. Yeah, it's knitted in softjack DK yarn, and from the bottom, it's knitted from the bottom up, and it has raglan sleeves, and it's also knitted in pieces. Yeah. So it's got some stripes as well, which is about the most complicated thing of this whole pattern, and yeah, it's a bit simple, more simple than the usual jumpers that I get, like the lovage, but I'm knitting it myself, and I don't have much time at the moment.
Yeah.
Because I actually am doing my Abitur. That's a German word version of the finals. I'm going to finish school soon in about 2 months or 1 month. I'm very excited about that. Anyway, this jumper, the colours we picked, the original colours combination is dark blue, aqua, and a kind of a silver grey colour.
Yeah.
And when we looked at the colours in the internet, I did like this combination, but I fell in love with the aqua. So at first we had a whole look at the different versions that we might be able to make the aqua the main body down the bottom or the top. But then when we went to the store, I actually saw this red, and I totally fell in love with it because it's very bright and it pops out. It's very cheery. And yeah, so the problem is though, compared to the original design and the original colour combination, there are no different shades of this red. There's not like a lighter shade of red or a darker shade of red, which is why we had to find a totally different colour to kind of still fit into the whole
the look of it. So it didn't really change the design look. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't that easy, but we finally came up with a version of this gold. It's called Savannah. I call it gold. Yeah, so this is the bottom part, then there's a few golden stripes, and then it's topped with some cream at the top, which I actually perceive as silver.
Yeah.
To be honest, when you see it's knitted out here, this looks like a gold and silver, which I like. So up here will be like similar to this body here, you'll have a whole lot of this cream colour at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've done a really great job of it. It's super neat knitting, I have to say. Excellent. But we did find a problem, didn't we?
Yes.
She's been knitting this pattern all herself, so I haven't really been helping. She's been reading it. But I did say make sure that you measure it. When they say measure the work, measure from the bottom up, and you measured from...
I measured from here.
Yeah.
I was so stupid. I'm not... I should have been able to read this pattern, but I did the mistake of interpreting it as 24 centimetres from here, so I've got like an extra, 6 centimetres?
Yeah.
I decided to simply, I'm going to unravel this all.
Yeah.
And
to back down to here and then start the stripes earlier.
Exactly.
So that's a real shame, especially since you don't have a lot of time for knitting. But it's looking really lovely and it's going to be beautiful. And why did you pick this pattern? Because you've got lots of adventures in store, haven't you?
2 reasons. It's actually, if you look at the design, I think Mum's going to put a picture up here to cover her face for once. It's got a nice boat neck, which I think is very pretty, elegant. And also the yarn, it's mainly cotton and a bit of yak, which means that it's, first of all, not very heavy, and it's also not too warm. And I'm going to be off in Australia for 6 months. And in Sydney, it's a very short winter season, and I expect it's going to get pretty hot very soon. And this is something that I can still wear.
Yeah, you'll be able to wear it in winter and
spring.
Yeah, because it really is maybe a 6-week winter.
Don't have that here in Germany.
Yeah.
It's a 4-week summer here.
So it's gorgeous, styles, and I'm looking forward to seeing it finished.
Me too.
Yeah. And just for any new viewers who didn't see this earlier, I knitted this last year, and it's the Lovage by Marie Wallen, and I love seeing Madeleine in it. It suits you so much, and it's so bright and colourful.
Why, thank you.
Thanks, Styles. Now off you go and do your study.
Actually, I'm going into the woods first to pick some wild...
Bärlauch.
Bärlauch. What's bärlauch in...
I don't know. We have to look it
Well,
up.
You can make pesto out of it.
Yeah.
And we've been making fresh pesto with organic bärlauch from the woods.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Welcome back, Dales.
Oh, thanks, Dales. I was starting to wonder whether I would be welcome back.
Yeah, Madeleine did such a good job, didn't she?
She did a beautiful job. She does really scrub up quite well for the camera.
Yeah. Did you think you might lose your job security?
I was a bit concerned. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go backwards. We normally do bring and brag first, but we're now going to bring and brag. We've just had under construction with Madeleine. Bring and brag is where we show a finished object, and I have a finished object, and that is this summer dress, which I've just sewn. So for any new viewers, I'm actually a very obsessed knitter who has had to have an enforced break because I have chronic...
Tennis elbow
and golfer's elbow. So I've had 3 weeks without knitting a stitch, and I'm going to have at least another 3 weeks without knitting a stitch because I'm determined to allow this to heal properly and not have this continuing problem go on. So in our previous episode, I talked about the treatments and exercises that I'm doing. So if you're interested, you can go back and watch that. I won't go into any more today, but it has been quite challenging, as any of you who are obsessive knitters can imagine. So I've been trying to distract myself, and I've been doing some sewing. And I have to say that if you are a very accomplished sewer and you decide to take up knitting, then I think you're at a great advantage, because just the knowledge that you learn from sewing, of putting all of these garment pieces together and how they work, and then how you alter them for a really good fit, is invaluable and is only ever going to help your knitting and give you more freedom. I would call myself an experienced and confident knitter, but I'm quite a timid sewer. So I will talk to you about my adventures with the dress that I'm wearing. If you're a good sewer, accomplished sewer, you've been probably checking out the dress as I'm sitting here, and you could possibly even see the problems I have with it. But I'm going to tell you about them now. So first of all, the dress. I first saw the dress when I was looking on YouTube. It's a German tutorial on YouTube, and it's by the Lily Stoff company, which is a German company. Stoff is fabric or material in German, and the dress is called the Zoe Clyde. There's a picture of it, and Clyde is just the German word for dress. And it's made out of jersey, and I totally loved it because the style of it is very fitted bodice and a flary skirt that goes out like that. So it's a very 50s looking dress, and it's very flattering for figures like mine, which are small-waisted and big-bottomed.
Curvaceous.
Well, curvaceous in the bottom half, put it that way.
Yep.
Anyway, it is a flattering style dress, so I fell in love with it and wanted to sew it. So my first problem was I go down to the fabric shop, and I couldn't find any jersey print that I really liked. And I think the salesperson was wanting to make a sale, and I was rather gullible. So he said, this material will work just as well. And it's a cotton with about 5% elastic. But it's stretchy, but not really stretchy, not in comparison to jersey. So I think it just makes fitting the dress even harder. And as you can see, or you might be able to see, but there is no zipper. So there's not a zipper going under the arms or down the back. So it means you sort of have to wriggle your way into this dress, which I do, like a conjurer, basically.
Yeah, I was thinking that, like Houdini.
Yeah, it's a Houdini dress.
Backwards.
To get into it. So I'm very pleased with how it's sitting and fitting around the waist, and the bust, you can see that fits very well. There's a bust dart here and a little waist dart here and at the back. But I've done quite of a dog's breakfast on the set-in sleeves and how it is here. And the problem is knitting is so accommodating, it's wonderful, and sewing isn't. If you're making something as figure-hugging as this fitted bodice. So I was having quite a lot of problems trying to get these sleeves fitting. You can see they're a bit tight under here, and I had my hair strategically placed so you couldn't see the ill fit up here. But underneath you can see that's pulling there. It's not lying flat, and it's slightly uncomfortable. And that's because somehow the set-in sleeves aren't working and the fit around it here is not working, and I don't know enough about how to make it work. So I was sewing it in here and pulling it out there and doing a bit of this and a bit of that, not really knowing if it's coming better or worse.
Yeah.
Just swimming around in the dark and hoping for the best. I did spend some time on YouTube trying to sift through tutorials on how to fit a sleeve on a very fitted bodice, but it's very hard to find information that's detailed enough for you to be able to work with and do something with.
Yeah, there are probably good books.
Yeah.
Somebody might recommend a good book.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. So I'll stand up and show you what's working well.
Because it is pretty gorgeous, dolls.
It's beautiful material. So this is all working well here, and around the bust it's fitting well. And if I turn around, you can see that's fitting nicely here. So what I will do, if I can't figure out what to do, and I don't think I can do any more, I might even just cut the sleeves off and make it into like a sleeveless dress. But I think I might have actually wrecked the shape of the set-in sleeves.
Yeah, well, they're not made for that anyway.
And if that doesn't work, maybe I just cut the whole bodice off and just have it as a summer skirt. But what I did do is I put in this extra colour material here. So you see just a little peak on the sleeves of this aqua colour, and also here, which I really like. And I do love the 3/4 sleeve. It's beautiful. But I don't understand the pattern, I have to say, because this is the back. I'll show you the back piece. So that's the back piece there. And so here's a little dart that is at the waist. And this is the sleeve cut out. And this would lie on your fabric's fold, so that when you cut this out and you unfold it, there would be a mirror of this part here. This is the front piece, and you can see it's got a bust dart here and a waist dart here. And you do the same thing, so that lies on the fold. But if I put them both together like this, and here, if I turn it around, and the front piece that you can see is the back piece, you can see how it's actually cut further in than the front piece, and I don't understand that, because that actually makes the width across the shoulders more narrow at the back than it is at the front. And I don't understand why they would do that. You don't do that on a knitting piece, because I imagine if you're doing this, you actually want more space across the back. So I don't quite understand why the pattern is written like that. And I did find that somehow my sleeve was cut further back here. I thought I haven't got the pieces round the wrong way, and then I checked this and I saw that. So that's something I'm just not experienced enough to know why that's not working. And I think I really just need to find a good course to do to try to figure this out. But I'm looking forward to learning learning extra things about fitting, because I think doing anything 100%, it's got to be 100% fit when it's with material and it's so
it's
body
not
hanging.
stretchy.
Yeah, knitting is incredibly accommodating. So I've got some very cheap, ugly jersey, which I'm going to try the bodice out again and see if I can do a better job of it, because I would love to be able to sew this dress again and for it to work. So that's my adventure.
Hello, I'm Katie and this is Jack, and we live in Devon, which is in the southwest of the UK. I've been knitting since I was about 7 years old. I was taught by my grandma, who was an amazing knitter and seamstress and all-around inspiring lady. But it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I really got obsessed with knitting, and I think the main reason for that is due to mental health. So I picked up knitting at that time because it was something to really help me with anxiety, but it became so much more than that when I started knitting garments. So growing up, I struggled with an eating disorder and I was sexually abused as a teenager. So I'd always had a bit of a hard time with how I felt about my body and feeling good in my own skin. So it was really empowering step in my recovery, actually, when I started making garments that felt good on my body, being able to choose things for my own size and colours that I really liked. And part of the knitting process is that you make something that you feel really proud of and feel excited to wear. So it was a really amazing, inspiring thing that I started doing. And it's just grown and become this obsession that I now, a day doesn't go by when I'm not thinking about knitting, and I can't imagine travelling anywhere without my knitting, and it's become a bigger and bigger part of my life. And it's actually set to become even more so, because in the next couple of weeks I'm starting a really exciting new job for Blacker Yarns. So it is all about the knitting here. What I'm wearing is actually the first garment that I ever finished. I can't call it the first garment I made because there's a few unfinished ones in the box that we don't talk about, but this is the first garment that I finished. And it's a jumper called Moray Star by Di Gilpin. And I love it very much. It's one of my most worn jumpers. So it's knitted in the round from the bottom up. So I'm not sure if you can see, it has this deep ribbed section at the waist, maybe about 15 centimetres, and then a textured pattern with some cables, knit and purl stitches. And then you separate at the armpits and knit the front and back separately, which are a lace section. And then you join at the shoulders with a 3-needle bind off. The sleeves are knitted separately in the round, and they've got a bit of lace and a bit of cables. So, maybe I bit off a bit more than I could chew for my first garment, and it did take me over a year to finish it, but I was so proud when I did it. One of the things I really love about knitting is how you create special pieces that really remind you of certain places or certain times in your life. And this piece is a shawl that I made as a gift for my mum. The pattern is Daisy Crescent by Kieran Foley, and I made it out of Brooklyn tweed loft, which I purchased in Pearl Soho in New York when I was there with my mum. So I really wanted to make her something that would remind her of that trip and the special time that we spent together. But also for me, the month that I spent knitting on it, because it was quite an involved little project, it took quite a while. Every moment that I was working on it was so joyful because I was remembering that trip and the time that we spent together. And I love this pattern, actually. I keep thinking I must make another one for myself. So hopefully I'll get around to that one day. This is another really meaningful piece for me. This is the Scatness tunic by Kate Davies, which comes from her book Colours of Shetland, which was given to me as a gift, a farewell gift by a really special friend. So from the beginning, this was going to be a really special garment to me, but it's also to do with the yarn. So the yarn is from Schillerstair on the Isle of Skye, which we visited a couple of years ago when we went to the island, and it was such a special holiday. The weather was so perfect, and I remember all of the colours that we saw, and I love how the colours that Schillerstair produce are all made with natural dyes, but they're all inspired by the colours of the Isle of Skye. So I had an amazing time picking colours and swatching for the colour work on the yoke of this jumper. It was a lovely pattern to work from. This is the first time that I've done a steek, and it was not nearly as scary as I thought it was going to be. I felt really supported by Kate's writing and the detail of the pattern. You might notice there's a button missing. I lost a button recently, so I need to make another one of those. That's another really beautiful part of the pattern, that it tells you how to make these gorgeous buttons. This is my most recently finished and current favourite garment, which I call my birthday jumper. It's knitted with Blacker Yarn's Cornish Tin 2, which was their special edition birthday yarn last year. And Blacker Yarn's birthday happens to be the same as my birthday, so that was the reason I gave myself for buying such a large quantity of yarn. The colourwork design on this jumper is from a hat pattern, the Burst With Hat by Rachel Coopy, which she very kindly gave me permission to adapt into a jumper design for myself. So it's knitted flat in pieces, which is my favourite construction for garments. I'm one of those weird people who really enjoys sewing up seams, and I don't mind knitting my colourwork flat, which I know isn't everybody's cup of tea. The sleeves are garter stitch, which gives a nice kind of contrast in texture, and they're really thick and cosy and warm, which I like because I'm a really cold person. And they have these really cute pink cuffs. One of my favourite things about the jumper is this little saddle shoulder detail at the top of the sleeve, which was kind of an accident because I was trying to solve the problem of how the colourwork would meet up over the shoulder, and I couldn't be bothered to figure it out, basically, so I decided to add this little panel of garter stitch at the top, and it turned into a design feature that I really like how it fits with the pink of the collar. This is one of my favourite things to wear because it's so warm, and I love how the texture of the wool and spun yarn all the colours blend into each other in the colourwork and make it look really smooth, and I love it very, very much. Much as I love knitting garments, my whole knitting journey really started with toys, so it would be weird if I didn't show you a couple of those. This is Tiny Clanger, who I made maybe about 10 years ago with the free clanger pattern that's available on Ravelry, and she has a lovely outfit made out of felt, and her hair and her feet are also made out of felt. And I'm a bit of a TV nerd. I especially love kids' TV, and I really enjoy knitting toys of those kind of characters. I want to say for children, but not really, they're for myself. And I'm a massive fan of the show Avatar, The Last Airbender, which was a Nickelodeon TV show. And I wanted to find a pattern for Upper, who is a gigantic flying bison. I couldn't find a satisfactory pattern, so I decided that I needed to make one up. So here is the result. He's kind of a work in progress, so he doesn't have any feet yet. But here he is. I didn't really write down what I was doing, as I kind of made it up as I went along. So I think I started with his glorious picot fringe and went on up to work on his tattoo, which is intarsia, and follows all the way down this stripe down his back. I then picked up the stitches along this edge for his stripes and knitted his legs in the round, and they've got little picot cuffs as well waiting for his feet. He is knitted with 100% alpaca, so we don't talk about how much money he cost. He's just a very lovely friend, and one day I will get round to finishing him. At the moment, I'm working on another jumper, which is based on the conifer jumper by Ella Austin. Now, Ella Austin is one of my favourite designers and also one of my best buddies, and she gave me permission to adapt this colourwork pattern, which she initially designed for a baby cardigan, into a jumper for myself. I believe actually it's now available as a grown-up cardigan pattern through Loop in London, but I wanted mine to be a jumper, and I am knitting it in Jamieson's of Shetland double knitting, so it is going nice and quickly, and it's going to be a kind of boxy, slightly cropped shape and have a really deep ribbing at the neckline with a raglan sleeve. The pink at the bottom is a provisional cast on. You can see more clearly on my swatch. I'm going to do a little dark green I-cord to finish off the bottom edge. When I'm not knitting, I'm usually found drawing, and over the last few years I've had the joy of making comics and illustrations for Pom Pom Quarterly magazine. So I've done various things about, I did one about how knitting can be good for body image. And I did some illustrations of plants for their natural dyes issue. And this piece is one about that little habit that we all have about buying too much yarn. And there's a sweet little story about a lost mitten.
So thank you very much to Katie. As Katie mentioned, she has recently joined the Blacker Yarns team. That means your next order, maybe Katie is behind getting that processed or answering your questions. I think she's an excellent fit for the company, at least, a great advocate for a good yarn company.
Yeah.
I did think the birthday jumper that Katie put together, including Rachel Coopy's colourwork design on the front, I thought it was worthy of putting into a pattern.
Absolutely.
I thought the shoulders here, I thought the shoulders here were really neat. She admitted that it was just a workaround to get out of figuring out how to make it join, but I think it's a great detail. You said you thought it worked together well with the colour work.
Yeah,
so.
It showed off the different colour that she used in the ribbing and also the colour work down here. I think it's great. It looks really good.
Yeah.
We met Katie at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. She was working at the Blacker Yarn store. And Katie has actually written a book that's been published, and it's the story of her struggle and recovery from eating disorders and sexual abuse. And it was interesting talking to her because she came across to me as an intelligent and thoughtful and well-spoken person.
Yep.
So I'd be very interested to reading her book. I think it would be probably...
You've ordered a copy, haven't
yes,
you?
insightful. So if you're interested in checking out any of Katie's illustrations, I think she also does a magazine, having a look at her other knitting or even looking at her book, reading her book, then her contact details are on the fruityknitting.com, so you can, where everybody else's, all our guests' information is.
Yep. Under construction.
That's you.
That's me.
What have you got for us?
So I'm still working on my shawl. And last episode, we were looking forward to hitting the blue, and now here we are in the blue.
Yes.
So that's a bit of a change. That's really cool. The pattern continues to be pretty easy, although something did go a little bit askew somewhere along the line.
You have to hold this bit here,
Okay,
like that.
I'll hold the tail.
Yeah, I'll hold this bit. There we go.
Yeah.
It's actually quite a lot of knitting in there.
There are quite a few stitches there, I have to say.
Yeah.
So it's coming along. I'm not sure when it's going to be finished. I'm starting to get concerned. I still haven't done the calculations.
Yeah. You only get a couple of rows in a day, don't you?
I know. And even that's getting more and more. The one thing I have learned a little bit late is Andrea told me, I don't know if this was in the instructions or not, but I didn't pick it up.
Probably not.
When I change colours on these stripes, I always do it so that the colour that I'm leaving is at the back and the new colour that I'm bringing in is on the front. And Andrea tells me that's exactly around the wrong way. I didn't offer to unpick it. Andrea didn't suggest it. I think that was,
you don't need to. It's fine. But all that does, if I just sort of explain here. So just say you've been knitting on this one and you want to pull up, this is too far down, but just say this was just 2 rows below. If you pull up the yarn that you want to work on up behind the yarn you've been working on, then it creates sort of a neater edge along the side and you don't see it. But the way you've done it, you've just got this alternating pattern, which is fine.
Yeah, you can sort of see it. Maybe we'll put it in a photo, but you can sort of see that you get just one little thread of the wrong colour on each row. I don't think it's a big problem. I'm not going to redo it.
No.
So, it's coming along. I don't know. I don't keep track of how much progress I make every day, but
You'll get there. Steady does it.
Yep.
You'll get there.
Yep.
Just as long as it gets there done before your mum's birthday.
Yeah, for some birthday from my mum.
This year,
This year.
May.
So a couple of weeks ago, we went for a hike in an area that's called the Pfalz, just quite close to Frankfurt, sort of southwest of here. It's Palatinate in English, although I don't know that that's also a terribly familiar word to most people. A little bit southwest of here, not very far. We went for a walk in the woods, but we came out of the woods and there's this clearing. Now in Germany, there are not actually many sheep. It's pretty rare that we see sheep in Germany, in contrast to Wales, where we take our holidays. We came out of the woods here and there's a field and there was a flock of sheep and there were a whole lot of little lambs there.
Yeah.
Very cute, little wet tails wagging. All of
suckling
them
their mothers.
after a drink from their mothers, chasing
Yeah.
after them and banging and getting their drinks. So that was
Yeah.
very cute.
Yeah, so we took some footage to show you, and I just want to talk quickly about the music that's accompanying it. It's a piece by Schubert, and it's called Der Hirt auf dem Felsen, and that translates as The Shepherd on the Rock. And this is probably the last composition that Schubert wrote before he died at the age of 36 from syphilis. And he wrote it for the famous Berlin opera singer Anna Milde Hauptmann, who asked him to write her a song where she could show off her ability to express many different emotions in the context of one song. So the text is a lament of a shepherd who is up in the mountains. He's been alone for a long time with his flock and he's desperately lonely. And in the valley below him is the village where his lover lives. And during the day, he spends his time singing and calling out. And he notices that the further he goes up the mountain, the clearer the echo of his voice is that comes back to him. So he does this constantly to keep himself company and to break the dreadful loneliness that he's feeling, as well as the hope that his lover can hear his voice and then be connected to him. But what he finds is that he has to, the further up he goes, the clearer the echo is. So in a way, he has to go further from his lover to be connected to her, that she hears his voice. So it's quite tragic.
It is a tragic thing. And you've got to think at this time, this shepherd was probably a really young guy. Like he may have been 14 or 15 or, you know. And he's out. I mean, I don't know all about this, but they were out on their own for long periods of time. It would have been really, really hard.
Very, very hard for them, yeah. Anyway, you can hear this in the music because the soprano will sing a phrase where it's like she's calling out, and then the clarinet will echo it. So it's a piece for soprano, clarinet and piano. So you can hear that interplay between the singer and the clarinet. Eventually spring comes and he becomes ecstatic because he can go down and take part in village life again and see his lover. And also all around him there's new growth, there's new buds on the trees, and his flock have all had lambs. So he has these beautiful joyful lambs with their lovely waggy tails, and they're suckling their mums and jumping and springing around the place. So it's a great piece of music. I hope you really enjoy our nature hike and the music that accompanies it. So we've got 2 cowls at the moment and they're going along really well, very exciting. We've got the lace, hap and garment cowl, and we've got the you and me cowl, which is a cowl celebrating special relationships. So if you would like to take part in that, go over to the Ravelry thread and you can check it all out. Right now I want to show you a little tip or trick for any newbie lace knitters, and that's lifelines. So experienced lace knitters will know this. I've just taken my knitting out. It hasn't seen the light of day for 3 weeks. The poor thing's quite lonely.
And I'm going to make sure you don't do any knitting now, so don't try it.
Okay, so a lifeline is used in case you have to unpick your very difficult lace pattern and it's hard for you to find where you are or what row you are, or to be able to identify that. And what you basically do is you get a tapestry needle like this, and with some waste yarn or some embroidery thread, you get your knitting and...
Is that waste yarn or embroidery thread?
No, it's not. I'll say what it is in a minute.
Okay.
And you thread through the stitches at the bottom of the stitches your waste line. Now I'm not going to do waste yarn. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now, but I'll just do a little bit. Okay, so if you thread it through like that, pull it through. Okay, so just like that and leave it hanging. So I would normally do that right across the row and just leave it hanging like that. And then you continue on to knit. And if you write down the row you're on, then that also helps you to be able to read your pattern if you're finding it difficult to figure out what row you are on. So then if you do a mistake, you can just quickly unravel your knitting, and these stitches on this row that you've got your lifeline in are held safe and it won't ravel down any further. You can also use this if you're doing a complicated cable pattern, particularly, as I said, if you're finding it difficult to read what row of a very big pattern you're on. So there's a few things to think about. When you're threading it through with your tapestry needle, you want to use yarn or waste yarn that's a lot thinner than the working yarn. And I've actually got dental floss here, which is what some people use.
Right.
It's our last piece of dental floss.
Oh, doll. And it's Easter weekend and there's no dental floss to be bought.
No, all the shops are shut, so you'll have to use it.
Yeah, I'll put it back when I'm finished though.
I'm not knitting, so I don't need a lifeline. Anyway, so when you're threading it through the stitches, make sure that you don't split your stitch. Otherwise, you'll find it hard to pull this through and you'll have to cut it out, which makes it awkward. So that's a little hint. And also keep it thinner than the working yarn that you're using, because you don't want to distort the tension. So eventually you will pull it out and you don't want that row to sort of have a sloppy look about it compared to everything else. So that's a couple of tips for that. What you can also do, which is kind of cute and clever, if you're knitting on circular needles like this that are interchangeable, you've always got a little hole where the key goes to screw this on tightly when you're changing the tips. So in that hole, you can use your embroidery thread or dental floss and poke it through like that. You can see that there. And it's attached. And then all you have to do is knit across.
Okay, and it just drags after you as you knit it.
And it drags after you as you knit it. And then once you pull all your stitches off, you've got it on. So that's a great thing to do. If you do it every 5 rows or so, just thread some of this in, knit across, and you've got it on. And then after 5 rows, you can check, have I got my, is my pattern correct? Yes, it's correct. Just pull out the dental floss and insert it in again. And that's just like a safety net under your work.
Yep.
So experienced lace knitters know this and do it all the time. But you can, as I said, also do it on very complicated stitch patterns. So you don't have to think, oh, I'm not sure, is that line 31 or 33 of my pattern?
Yeah.
It just helps you to be able to identify it better.
Sounds like a very sensible idea, does.
Yeah, and particularly the threading it through here is cute, isn't it?
Yep.
I hope that helps you. I just want to remind you that we have coming up on Saturday the 29th of April at our local yarn store, the Fruity Knitting Get Together. And that's a chance to come and spend an afternoon with us knitting and drinking coffee and eating cake, or scones actually. There's going to be scones there.
Oh, scones, yes.
And sipping champagne. For me, I'll just be sipping champagne.
And chatting. Did you say chatting?
I won't be knitting and chatting.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun, relaxed afternoon. If you're in the area of Frankfurt or you want to come and do some shopping in Frankfurt from further around in Germany, then we'd love to say hello to you in person. The details for all of that is in the Ravelry thread, so you can pop over and have a look. And if you do want to come, just leave a little note so that we know how many people to expect.
Yep. That's going to be a fun afternoon around the corner here. So
yeah,
that's something to look forward to.
I also want to say a very big thank you to all of our patrons, the patrons who have started supporting us from the beginning and also have recently joined up. We really appreciate it. And I also want to thank all of the viewers as well for spending your time with us. We appreciate that as well.
Yep. We love making the show available for free. We really enjoy producing the program. I've really enjoyed this show in particular. I think it's going to be one of my favorites, I've got to say. But it is also the case that we need financial support to continue with the program. It is almost a full-time job for Andrea, and I'm also involved in helping it, this and that. So we do need financial support, and we do that through Patreon. The ads that you see at the beginning of the program, wherever they show up, they don't actually come to us at all. We don't get any benefit from that at all. I think YouTube takes a good cut of that, and the rest of it goes to the producers of the music that we use, because that music is actually copyright. We just are allowed to use it. They can monetize it. But Patreon is a great method for viewers or fans of a show to support the production of the show and to keep the show independent, which we are.
Yeah. So now we're up to our interview with Justyna and Martin Lorkowska. And they were a lot of fun. They're great, bubbly personalities, heaps of fun to interview. I think you're going to find it a great interview, very easy to watch and entertaining. So we really hope you enjoy it. Yeah,
I really love this interview. I think Justyna, she's a lovely person. And I think her designs are really good. I really was struck by the pieces that she shows in the interview. Martin is also a really lovely guy. I was really pleased to meet him, and I also think he's really fallen into his position there very well. So enjoy this, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to the Fruity Knitting Podcast. My guest today is the Polish knitwear designer Justyna Lorkowska. Justyna has a wide range of designs which she publishes under her label Lete Knits. Her designs range from newborn baby beanies, very cute cardigans and jumpers for kids, a lot of sweaters and cardigans for women, as well as accessories, including some very beautiful shawls. Justyna has also had her patterns published in Amazuru, and she's done collaborations with Loop London. Justyna is married to Martin Lorkowska, the man behind the hand-dyed yarn label Martin's Lab. They were both recently at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, where they were a great hit. We're going to meet Martin towards the end of the interview, but first I would like to introduce you to Justyna. So Justyna, welcome to the Fruity Knitting Podcast, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hello, Andrea, and hi, everyone. Thank you so much, first of all, for having me, and I'm so honored to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Well, I like to start off with a little bit of background information first. So you grew up in Poland and you're living there now. What is the Polish knitting and handcrafting culture like, and what effect did growing up in this culture have on your own knitting and designing?
Well, definitely Polish, because I still live in Poland. Polish knitting industry is a lot smaller than the one in the UK or in the US. We don't have festivals in many places. We have a couple of yarn stores, but they stock mostly yarn imported from, say, Italy and Turkey. And there are some knitters out there, and we meet from time to time, but the community is a lot smaller than abroad. That might have a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, we don't really have the sheep culture, let's say, so much developed, and we keep sheep. If we have sheep, we generally eat sheep. And if somebody has their own flock, they don't really share the flock, if you know what I mean. So they have the flock together, I mean, close to their house, and they may use the fleece, they may spin on their own a little bit of yarn, but that's mostly for their own use, let's say. And they don't sell it worldwide. They don't even sell it to us Poles so much. Also, knitting is still not a hobby that you advertise. So it's not as cool as like scuba diving, let's say. And so when I started knitting, and I started knitting in my early teens, I never advertised that I can do things with my hands, and nobody knew during my studies that I could knit. And still, right now, when I talk to, let's say, muggles, you know, the non-knitters, I have a really hard time explaining to them what is it that I do. And they still have problems understanding why I quit my job, like a real job of a teacher, to knit. So it's still, you know, it's developing slowly, very slowly, but it's still not as big as in the UK with wonderful festivals. It also might be a little bit connected with the past, I think, because when you think about knitting in Poland, we have this stereotype of an old lady who knits with cheap acrylic yarn or some coarse wool, terrible coarse wool. And, you know, she makes socks for everyone in the family and tortures everybody in the family with the socks. And probably that's a little bit why, you know, and that knitting is still wasn't something that you would advertise. You would just do it at home when you didn't have money for wonderful sweaters in a shop. You would just make it yourself. Yeah. So I hope that one day it will change. And also it's a little bit connected with the way people knit in Poland. Most of us, we don't really have the culture of giving the ability to knit to your daughter, granddaughter, etc. Sometimes in some families it may happen, but it's not so widespread. And we don't have right now crafts classes with knitting where kids learn to knit or crochet, nothing like that. And this is funny because I learned from my mom. But she never actually sat me down to teach me how to knit. I just tried to observe what she was doing. And I apparently observed badly and repeated badly because I knit completely differently than most of the people I know, because I knit using the Eastern and crossed method. And in simple language, it means that most of my stitches, well, all of my stitches are worked through the back loop. That results in different, let's say, sitting of the stitches on the needle. I have to do a little bit of things to remount the stitches and so on. Don't worry, my patterns are written for the Westerners, not Easterners. But well, that gave me some trouble because for a very long time I believed I couldn't knit because my work never looked like the work of my sister, who somehow is a Western knitter. And until I finally logged on, I went online and I learned that, well, what I do is correct. It's just different, and it has a label. It's Eastern and crossed, right? So that also might be connected with the part of the world because there are in the east of Poland there are also a lot of knitters who knit the way I knit.
That's so interesting, yeah. And that's been difficult for you? Does it make your pattern writing a little bit more challenging, or you've really sorted that out now and you could do both?
Well, it was very difficult at the beginning when I tried to learn to knit. I mean, to transform other patterns to my needles. That was pretty difficult until I found out what's wrong with my stitches. But now I don't care, absolutely. I think Western and, I mean, I knit Eastern. What's happening on my needles is different, but I write everything using the Western abbreviations, the Western charts, and so on. So it's not a problem. It's just a matter of, getting used to.
Yeah, that's great. So I want to just talk very briefly on the business side of being a knitwear designer, because it's not just about knitting and writing patterns.
No, unfortunately, no.
So before you were doing this full time, you were trained as an English teacher and you worked as an English teacher. So what skills have you been able to directly transfer from that work into your present work now that have been particularly helpful? It'd be great if you could sort of talk about that a bit. And also, it's important as a knitwear designer to have a big internet presence. So have you had to learn some extra internet kind of skills or business skills, or have you even been able to outsource that to family? It'd be great to hear a little bit about that.
Well, to answer your first question, English opens the gates to everything. I try to tell that to my students all the time. I'm not sure if they believe me, but it's really true that if you can speak English, you can communicate with almost everyone in the world. So being able to speak English and being a teacher helped me tremendously. First of all, because I learned about my different style of knitting, a different method of knitting, and I learned a lot about knitting in English, actually, when I went online. And I also write my patterns first in English, not in my mother language. And it's really, really great if you know the language. More so, English knitting language is not that difficult, and English language has wonderful abbreviations. The patterns look coherent, they look pretty, and the patterns, when I see them translated into Polish, they just take a lot more pages. So that's really brilliant, to be able to speak English. That also opens the gates to Ravelry, right, to the community, because the knitting community is out there, and we communicate in English. We communicate in English with people from Germany, with people from Scandinavia, with people from the US, right? With everyone. So learning English, knowing English is very, very good. Being a teacher, on the other hand, helped me a lot when it comes to workshops. Because first of all, there is always the stage fright that you feel it's actually performance, when you perform in front of a group of students.
Yes.
So that helped me a lot, because I knew what I was dealing with. And sometimes I get reviews from my students, also knitting students, like, you probably taught in elementary school. I mean, yes, I did. It shows, once a teacher, always a teacher. So right now I just changed, let's say, the subject. I'm not teaching English anymore. I'm just teaching knitting in English again, right? When it comes to being a designer, apart from knowing English, social media are very important. And a lot of customers that a designer would like to probably have, these customers come from social media, not only Ravelry, but also Facebook, Instagram. I'm not so good with Twitter. Still, I don't feel it, but Facebook and Instagram, I love both. I love Instagram because it's pretty hard to imagine, but I'm a woman of very few words online because I don't really like typing. But if I show a picture, a very pretty picture with a few words, I can get my message through to people. And I love it. And I love that Instagram is so positive. There are no dislikes, disagrees. And it's a really, really nice platform. Whereas Facebook, even though there are some people who hate it, I like it because it allows me to communicate with my test knitters and with my tech editor. And also, the messenger, it allows me to communicate immediately when I want something, when I need something from somebody I'm collaborating with, for example. I do my test knits, for example, in a Facebook group, and I can get messages on my cell phone immediately when somebody has a problem, and they can contact my tech editor immediately. So that's really, really good. But managing the Facebook fan page, that's a different story, because after some point, when you cross a certain number of followers, when you're past that point, it involves a lot of work. It involves a lot of planning, and you can't do it on your own anymore. You have to ask somebody for help, and my helpers are my husband and my very dear friend who works together with me and my husband, and we manage Facebook fan page. I think there are about 25,000 followers right now, so that's a lot,
Yeah.
a lot of people. Yeah, so we plan, there's a lot of planning involved, and you have to know the algorithms, you have to know how the sponsored, let's say, posts work and so on. So that's a lot of planning, and it involves a little bit of studying before, to be successful, to get through to people.
Yeah. And did your husband have to do some extra study to understand that, or?
Before he started dyeing yarn, he worked for some man who, and his obligations, working for this man was to manage the social media and to help him with the social media. He was doing some internet things, and he learned a lot there. And he used the stuff he learned there for our Facebook pages.
That's great. Okay, and you're going to show us some of your favourite designs and talk about the constructions and things. But before we do that, I'd like you to describe your own design aesthetic. So perhaps talk a little bit about what knitting techniques you like to incorporate, if it's lace or stranded or cables, and is your own body shape and what you personally like to wear a starting point always for you when you designed? Maybe you can talk about that. And if there are any other knitwear designers who inspire you with their aesthetic.
Well, I like to believe that there is some aesthetic to my designs. I believe in the motto, less is more. When I create something, and I like to, and the other thing I believe in is I like to make things that I would gladly find in my closet. Why? Because somehow I feel when I make something, and when I model it, because I mostly model my stuff, I'm not true to the people out there. When I model something that I don't feel is like my next skin, if you know what I mean. And and I've noticed also that my most successful designs and the designs that the knitwear that I wear all the time are the things that I would gladly find in my closet. I'm pretty petite because I'm 5 feet 2 inches. So there are some designs that I wouldn't really make for me. I don't really do oversized sweaters. I mean, they look very pretty and I would love to wear them, but I can't. My body just doesn't allow me to, because I look weird. And I even tried, I went to some stores, to try on the ready-made sweaters just to see, in the mirror, what am I going to look like? No. So that's something that I would gladly make, but I don't really feel, true,
Yeah.
let's say, to people. When you ask me about some specific techniques or things, actually there aren't that. I mean, I don't have like favorites. I mean, I love cables, and when I see a pretty cable, I just want to put it on a sweater, on a hat, or on a shawl somewhere. But it must be like love at first sight. I see this cable, I want it, I have to make it, and I want to put it somewhere. The same comes with lace or with some texture, or with ribbing or with garter. So there must be something that attracts me in this particular stitch pattern that I want to have it on me. I want to wear it all the time. So I'm not like, I do only cables.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not like that. The same goes with short rows, with different methods of knitting. Well, there is one thing that I personally don't like, and I feel very uncomfortable with, is seamed sweaters. And that's mostly because I just don't like seaming. I mean, I know they are very good because they keep the shape, and you have the structure to a pullover or a cardigan. That's fabulous, but I still can't force myself. And the other thing is bottom-up sweaters, and that just my very personal thing. I know there is maths, and you have the swatch, you have everything, you have all the calculations, but every time I make a bottom-up sweater, I just feel like either, the body is not long enough or not, short enough, if you know what I mean. So I always feel it, even though there is maths, I always feel it that this is going to be wrong. I can't do it. But that's just something personal. When it comes to designers, I love, there are a couple of designers who inspire me. They inspire me mostly morally, if if I can say that. These are my designer friends whom I meet pretty often during various festivals, and we chat about the industry, we chat about our problems, our collaborations, the yarns that we recommend or don't recommend, the colors that we use, and so on. And we give each other a lot of moral support and inspiration also. And there are also a couple of designers that I like to observe in how they deal with, let's say, a publication, how they deal with the photography, how they present some kind of a construction, how they deal with different knitting problems. I love observing that, and it's really fascinating to see how other people do it. And but if you tell me, Justyna, you have an extra day or some extra time to knit something for yourself, and you have to pick a different designer, not you, I'd love to do it, and I would definitely cast on something made by Heidi Kiermaier or Isabel Kramer or Suvi Simola. They have the style, or they create clothes that I would gladly find in my closet. I mean, they have the rule, less is more. They are very beautifully presented, and I would love to have my day longer to knit those.
Wow, that's just a really great full answer. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to see you talk about some of your own favourite designs now, so let's have a look at them.
The first design that I'd like to show you is Flaum. That's a design I created for Amirisu. It's pretty popular. It's seamless, completely seamless. It's ribbed with some fisherman's rib. It starts here at the back neck. You work the collar, you increase the stitches for raglan, but then the fronts are attached to the rest of the body, the sleeves and the back, with the stitches picked up along the raglan seams. And finally, you work everything until the bottom. It's a very popular design, very wearable, very nice for petite girls, especially, or even for anybody. You can lengthen it, shorten it. What I would like to say and advise is be careful with the yarn choice, because the yarn choice is pretty important. This design has a lot of fisherman's rib, and that means a lot of yarn that's going to be used. You don't want it to be heavy, so something that has silk, not really. But alpaca, wool, very light yarns, they are perfect for it.
Lovely. And fisherman's rib creates such a lovely squishy fabric, doesn't it?
And very warm, very warm. The next design is a shawl. It's a shawl that I made a while ago. I made it first with rainbow heirloom, because I have two versions at home that's made with rainbow heirloom. And now I have a version that's made in my husband's yarn, actually, in Martin's Lab yarn. It's different. I mean, you can see that the direction is different, because that was knitted by our sample knitter, who is left-handed. So everything is reversed.
Wow.
Yes, that's funny, actually. But you can see the color changes here. I love this design because it's so perfect for color play. And I can't tell which version is better. And this design is called Buccaneer, and I love it even more because it has the special construction, sort of arrow-like construction, which is brilliant for all the knitters out there who hate when the rows are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and you want to shoot yourself when you finish the shawl. So they just get bigger until this point, and then they are the same, and you start decreasing stitches and create this funny shape. It's very wearable.
Yes, that looks great. Well, my husband is in that stage at the moment. He's at the very big part of knitting a shawl and wants to shoot himself.
Exactly. I mean, I love bias shawls, but at the end, I'm just like, oh, God, just be done with it. I hate it. But this one is brilliant. So the third design I'd like to show you is called Floric. And this is actually one of the cardigans that shows how I transform something that I see somewhere into knitting. It's inspired by Alicia Florrick from The Good Wife, and in one of the episodes she had a fabulous jacket, and in the back she had the pleats. Everything was made with fabric. She had the pleats that created this wonderful hourglass shape. It took me a while to figure out how to transform this into knitting, and well, pleats give you volume, and you don't want volume in this part. So I replaced pleats with a cable that creates the image of waist, even if you don't have it, right? So I love this design very, very much, and it's perfect for, I hope you can see, it's perfect for to wear with the dress. And what also is very nice is that it's a contiguous sweater. So everything is worked seamlessly. You start here at the back neck and increase stitches in proper places to create the whole yoke, and then work until the bottom. I'm not sure if you can see, but here also there is a cable that is used to give some kind of a eye-attracting detail.
That's gorgeous, and it is a stunning design. It really sits in the small of the back and looks very feminine, doesn't it? The cables.
Yeah, I just love it. Yeah, and it was really, really fun to figure out, how to do it, how to make it work.
Yeah.
And all the decreases, all the waist shaping is also hidden in here, right? So it's really nice.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So the third design that I like to show you is actually on me, and it just shows how much I love it. And this one is called Ashlyn, and it's a crescent-shaped shawl with a knitted-on border, and that's actually type of a shawl that I love knitting, and I do have quite a few designs with knitted-on borders. This design was created 2 years ago together with Victoria from Eden Cottage Yarns, and we are very good friends, and every year we create a shawl for the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and that was our first one. It's 2-color shawl, so you can just pick 2 colors of your favorite fingering weight yarns, and the body is worked in stockinette stitch together with some eyelets, and the border is attached to the body of the shawl. We join live stitches together by means of decreases and then slipped stitches. So you close the shawl, like that, with the knitted on border. It's also really nice for people who hate very, very long rows. Well, there are very many rows, but they are really short and very pleasant to make. So that's one of the shawls I really, really love, and I actually wear it pretty often. It's very feminine. I love the shape. It just stays properly on your shoulders. I really, really love it.
It is really gorgeous. I'm not a shawl knitter, but that shawl...
Oh, that's wrong.
That shawl and your Piccadilly are particularly beautiful and actually make me want to knit them. I find them incredibly elegant, and they've got an antique-y look about them too, which is just gorgeous.
I think it also shows that Vicky and I are friends, and I just love working with her because there are no constraints, and she trusts me a lot. I trust her a lot with the yarn choices, and it shows that she just sends me, "Are you Justyna, create something pretty," and it works, right? It's been working until now, I hope.
It's extremely pretty. It's extremely pretty. It's extremely elegant and classy. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic...
And you can wear it with jeans, actually. Right?
Yeah, you can.
With just a top and jeans, and then you have, instead of jewelry, you just wear it. The last design that I would like to show you, it's actually a free design that I created for my husband. And when he started dyeing yarn, he started playing a lot with dyes and creating hand-painted yarn, which is pretty popular, and it looks different to variegated yarn. And he asked me to just play a little bit and create something pretty to show off his yarn. And I created a very, very simple shawlette. It's not that big. Of course, it can be bigger because you just work a couple of rows, very short repeats of rows until you run out of yarn. And it turns out this shawl is just perfect for any variegated yarn, any hand-painted yarn, any speckled yarn. And it's pretty popular on Ravelry. And it just brings me wonderful memories because... there is a funny story how I created it, how I named it. When Martin started dyeing yarn, I was in his studio, I think, and he was talking about colors and about festivals that we would go some. I was like, "Martin, why are you doing that?" And he said, "Well, to be closer to you." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." Then my second thought was, there might be a hidden agenda there, but so far there hasn't been.
Good.
But
Stay with the first thought.
I'd like to believe with the in the first version, and that's how I named the show. And I really recommend it because it's very, very simple. It starts here with here at the beginning. You just have the sort of knitted on border with the eyelets, and it's perfect. So if you have a lonely skein of variegated yarn out there, just cast on and have fun and knit. You can also change a little bit. You can add stripes. You can do whatever. And I really, really like what people are doing with this pattern.
Wonderful. Well, that's been so good to hear you talk about your designs, and now I'm very curious to meet your husband. So let's get him on the show.
Okay, I'll call him.
Welcome, Martin. It's lovely to have you as well on the Fruity Knitting podcast with Justyna. You've recently joined her in the fibre arts industry by becoming a yarn dyer. And you've got your own label, Martin's Lab, which I have to say is a very groovy title.
Thank you.
Before you did this, you studied physics and science. So I imagine you've had a lot to learn. You've had to go and source your yarn base, find a good yarn base that you're happy to work with, and then learn how to dye yarn. So what interests me is what parts of the process have been particularly challenging for you, and what has been perhaps very easy, maybe because of your science and physics background.
Okay, so maybe it will be weird, but for me, the dyeing process is more interesting than difficult, because I'm thinking about this process like about the science experiment. So I have everything under my control. So I control temperature, I control pH, I control concentrate of dyeing powders. So this is like my place when I'm happy that I can do this, because it's very, very, I believe, very, very easy for me, because I like stuff like this. What is difficult for me is choosing of bases, because I'm started knitting like a year ago, and I haven't time for do this. My wife do this every time, so I have problem to knit. I knit only the simple things. So I don't know how my yarn is work with the bigger scale of thinking of garment. So I always need help with this. So I ask my wife, of course, and I ask my friends from knitting community. Yeah, but my wife is very important in this part, because she always trying help me with this. So she's speaking to me that is okay or not if I choose any base. So this is difficult for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And your science is really helping you with the dyeing, isn't it? With keeping notes and...
Yeah. I always love the physics, but I was good at school in chemistry. So the dyeing is like chemistry. So I love this, and everything what I learned before in chemistry and physics, it's helping me what I'm doing now. So I believe that I find place, I find things to do what I want to do in my life. Yeah, I believe it's perfect now for me.
That's great. And what about choosing colours? Do you also help get Justyna's help for that, or have you got particular ideas yourself?
Yes, she always help me with this with that. but I'm looking for interesting colors on the floors, on the outside our apartment. When I travel to into Edinburgh, looking for inspiration places. So this is important, that to find something what is existing normally, that people can touch this and make this into my yarn. So this important for me, that I can find something and make it and make into my colorways.
Yeah, so you're getting a lot of inspiration from nature and also other sources that you see when you're traveling around.
Yes, like from town, like from cities, like I don't know, London, Edinburgh, Paris. I like find some places in these towns, and of course I like looking in the everywhere what is around me. Yeah, find something interesting.
That's great. I want to now finish off the whole interview with a little glimpse of behind the scenes of Martin's lab and Lete's knits, because both of you have left the security of being employees and you've become your own bosses. You're a family with 2 kids, and now you've also become business partners. So tell us, what has it been like to go on this adventure together?
Yeah, the most important thing it was to divide our working spaces. So I have my studio, and Justyna work at home. So we see each other on the morning, and after this on the evening. That we of course can speak on the internet or the telephone to me or to Justyna, but we always try to divide these two things. Yeah, that it's better. Every person needs some space to live. Every person has space to be creative. So we need this too. So.
Well, and we also have a wonderful helper, my mom-in-law, who helps with the kids, and she's actually right now with the kids. So she helps us a lot, right? She also helps us with the yarn.
She helped me with the yarn when we have some time, and of course we have helps from our friends. So we not only me and my wife, but we have many people who help us. But full time it's only me in my laboratory and Justyna in house, and we work and we try creating something what people like and love.
Yeah, if I go to the studio, I don't knit. I just twist yarn.
Yeah, because I always need slaves. So.
But it must be exciting to dream together and plan together, because both of your individual businesses feed into each other and support and inspire.
It's a lot of fun, and it also somehow fulfills our dream to travel, because we travel a lot everywhere.
So I always travel like Instagram husband, and now I'm travel like I like husband or like indie dyer. So it's better for me than before.
You've got your own place. You're not just the husband.
Yes. Yeah. I believe it's better place. Yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah. Because before some people think that I only make photos for Justyna.
But you know the people right now.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. And have you got any immediate plans that you would like to share with us, or any dreams of where you'd like to travel together?
Well, definitely. We have a shawl that's coming soon. I will start a test next week, and that's a cabled shawl. It's actually, it's somewhere in the back.
Yes.
And that's a shawl in Martin's yarn, which is still not introduced. It was introduced during Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and that's Tibetan singles.
Tibetan singles. Yeah.
Very, very soft, and I love it. And that's a reversible shawl with cables. So that's going to happen probably next month with a big update and publication.
And then we take some spaces that he's gonna do something for other people, and I do something for my customers and my shops, because
the problem is when I see some yarn that he has in the studio, it's like, I want it, I have to cast on, and another design. So it's a very, very hard to live with a yarny. And sometimes I can't touch it, right? So I go to the studio like, don't touch it, that's not yours, that's customers. well.
Well, it's been so lovely to talk to you both, have you both on the show. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I wish you a lot of success. I'm sure you're going to have it, and I'll enjoy watching you working together and whatever comes out in the future.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrea, for inviting me.
My pleasure. So let's say goodbye to the audience now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I want to just remind you that we have our fruity get-together, which is happening on... What?
Fruity get-together. Please make it the fruity knitting get-together.
It's where you turn up and you haven't had a shower for 1 week. Okay, we're ready?
Yep.
So I